Good evening, friends, and welcome to my third press briefing of the day. This also must be some kind of a record, I suppose, doing 3 press conferences in one day. So you had the Gita press conference at 3 o'clock, then we just had the press conference on Vice President's visit to Indonesia and Brunei, and now we are going to talk about the India-Africa Forum Summit. I have with me Dr. C. Rajshekhar, who is the Director General, the newly appointed Director General of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. Earlier, he was our ambassador to Cuba. And he is going to tell you about the cultural components that ICCR is going to be handling during the India-Africa Forum Summit. I'm also expecting my predecessor and good friend to all of you, Syed Akbaruddin, who will tell us a little bit more about the remaining cultural components as well as on the logistics side, because I've been hearing a lot of queries from all of you on, what is the magnitude, the sheer scale at which this IAFS is happening. First time that India is getting all 54 African countries on a common platform. So those kinds of details, I'm sure Akbar would be in a position to share with you, including, how many heads of state are finally coming. I hope he is in a position to share that information with you. So with that, I think let's dive straight into the cultural part being handled by ICCR, and I give the floor now to Dr. Rajshekhar.
Thank you very much, Vikas, and a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Actually, I hoped and tried sincerely to reduce your burden today a bit by doing this on Saturday. Saturdays, and some of you may have got invitation. We wanted to do, but on second thought, we thought that this is better to do rather than troubling you on a Saturday evening. But anyway, we all have seen the how festive colors Delhi is sporting. So to add to that, on the part of ICCR, we are doing a couple of things in the public domain. To begin with, there was a curtain raiser on Saturday 24th. Of a performance. We have specially flown in groups from different countries in Africa, from Ethiopia, from Egypt, from Ghana, Uganda, Zambia. These are the countries. So 57 performers have been flown in especially. After I finish my remarks, I will show you a little clip of their performance at the Nehru Park on Saturday. We have organized different shows. For example, Nehru Park was on 24th, and then on 31st evening again at 6:30 there will be full performance. Then the Ethiopian group is going to perform in Guwahati on 1st November. And later, another group, Ethiopia, Uganda, Zambia, and Ghana would perform in Gujarat, Vadodara, at Parul University on 3rd November. And in addition, this is one aspect. This we will show the clip later. In addition to that, we are doing one more thing, which is as a follow-up to this and also as a welcome and to have greater engagement. We are doing artists in residence. So we're going to bring in 54 countries in 2 phases, 27 artists in the next year, 2016, and the following year, 27 artists. 54 artists will be brought in, and they'll be here in residence with as many number of Indian artists, and together they will work and they'll create a body of work which will be going around both in India and also in Africa to promote lasting, enduring bonds of friendship. So these are the 2 in the public domain, I said. Of course, we're also doing a big event, nicely blending both Indian and African presentations at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, when the Honorable Rashtrapati Ji would be hosting the heads of states. Now, I will run this clip, please. This is a 2-minute clip. One, you will see the Ethiopians. There are 9 of them. And the second one is, this is the Ethiopian group. So the fuller version you can enjoy on 31st at the Nehru Park. A special welcome to our media friends from Africa. In case you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Yes. Please introduce and your organization.
Good evening, sir. My name is Yusuf Ali. I'm a managing editor with The Nation newspaper in Nigeria. I have only 2 questions. One, I want to know the level of preparation for this India-Africa Forum Summit. How many heads of state or government?
Yusuf, I'm sorry you came in a bit late.
Okay.
The gentleman on my right is the Director General of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, and he is handling only the cultural bit that ICCR is handling for the IAFS. Very shortly, I'm expecting Mr. Syed Akbaruddin, who is the Chief Coordinator of the IAFS. He will have all the figures. He just called me. He's stuck in traffic at ITO. So I hope the traffic jam doesn't delay him.
And I'll hold my question till it comes.
So if you want to ask anything on the cultural side, then he's the gentleman concerned. And you can ask him on ICCR scholarships if you are interested, because that is something that Mr. Raj Shekhar's outfit handles.
No.
Looks like people are very happy on the cultural side.
Oh, thank you very much. Actually, this is also the first time I have just joined the beginning of this month. This is also my first introductory interaction. I may utilize this, as Vikas is suggesting, to tell about what ICCR does in case some of our friends from Africa are not familiar. Question first, please.
Mike.
Shilpa from the BBC. We just wanted to know what cultural events are on the sidelines of the Delhi meeting so we can go film them actually. So anything tomorrow or day after which is planned, which we can film?
Nothing before 31st. There was a curtain raiser, and then there is a special show for the heads of states at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The next show would be on 31st at Nehru Park. These details we can also distribute at the end of this, and also they are available at the website, on the website of ICCR.
But I think there are, you see, he is handling the cultural troops who have come from Africa. Then there will be cultural troops from India for our African friends. So those details Mr. Akbaruddin would have. I know for a fact that when the External Affairs Minister is hosting a dinner, there will be a cultural performance. And also there may be a cultural performance when the heads are all here. So I think those details Mr. Akbaruddin would be able to provide you.
So could you give us some details of this cultural event at Rashtrapati Bhavan that you said should be attended by the heads of state? What are the performances?
This is actually, the main show in honor of the heads of states.
When will it be, sir? When organized? Which day exactly?
This is on 29th. This is on 29th when the Rashtrapati ji hosts a banquet. But I can't go into the details, but suffice to say that we would put up the best show, and also blending both the African and also Indian. There'll be drums, there'll be swing, there'll be string instruments, there'll be music, there'll be dance, Western and Eastern. So we'll like to present a brief but a great splash.
Yeah, Akhilesh Suman.
I'm going to ask from you. Today, secretary level talks have taken place, official talks level. Can you just give us a hint that what has happened and what is the flavor of it?
Well, today, as you know, formally the India-Africa Forum Summit has begun today, because it has been divided into 3 components. The first component is the senior officials meeting, which has begun today. And from our side, the senior most official handling Africa Forum Summit is Mr. Navtej Sarna, Secretary West, under whom Africa falls. So you must have seen, I've tweeted the group picture where he is very much there. And they are going to negotiate 2 documents. One is going to be a political document, which will basically talk about the political partnership between India and Africa, and it will also touch upon global and regional issues. And the other is going to be a framework document of cooperation, That, to my mind, I think will recall the developmental partnership between India and Africa, the lines of credit, what are African needs, where we can contribute, and how the two, India and Africa, can work together in terms of improving the lives of both our peoples. So those are the two documents that are now currently being negotiated. Mr. Navtej Sarna was also supposed to be here, but as always happens, these meetings always overrun, so he could not join us. But let me take this opportunity to brief you also on what's going to happen tomorrow, and in terms of the media that wants to be present. So tomorrow is going to be the foreign ministers meeting. So as I told you, the three components are, the first component is the senior officials meeting, which happened today. Tomorrow is the foreign ministers meeting, and then on the 29th is the heads of state and government. So that is the way the summit has been divided. And tomorrow it will begin at 10 o'clock with a ministerial meeting and group photograph at the Indira Gandhi Sports Complex. At 11 o'clock tomorrow, there will be the inauguration of a business exhibition by Minister of State, retired General V.K. Singh. The venue will also be the Velodrome in the Indira Gandhi Sports Complex. And then from 12 o'clock onwards, basically our External Affairs Minister will start having bilateral meetings with several of our counterparts. I can mention a few to you. She'll be meeting the Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe. She'll be meeting the Foreign Minister of South Sudan, of Malawi, of Kenya, of Cameroon, of Cape Verde, and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and of Ghana. So these are the meetings that we know till now. I mean, some more meetings may also come up. And then basically that's the sequence for tomorrow. So those of our media friends who want to avail of XP Division's facilities to reach the venue, as I told you, the venue is the Indira Gandhi Sports Complex. The entry is from gate number 8D, D for Delhi, and XP Division buses will start at 7 a.m. sharp. So those of you who do not want to get caught in traffic jams or don't want to avail of your own transport, you are welcome to come to Shastri Bhavan tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., get into the buses that XP Division is providing, which will ferry you to the venue and will bring you back later in the evening. The 10 o'clock meeting is open to all media. Akbar is here. Welcome, sir. Chief Coordinator Saab. So the 10 o'clock meeting is open to all media, which means print and audiovisual. 11 o'clock, the inauguration of the business exhibition by MOS is open to agencies only, and then the bilateral meetings are open only to agencies. So that is the advisory, and now we have the man of the moment, Shri Syed Akbaruddin, Additional Secretary and Chief Coordinator of the India-Africa Forum Summit. He's coming straight from the venue, so all those questions that you wanted to ask him on the logistics, on how many heads are coming, etc., now is your chance.
I'm ready, you can answer.
I think Yusuf Ali wanted to ask that question. He is one of our friends from the India-Africa Editors Forum.
Good evening, sir. My name is Yusuf Ali from Nigeria. I want to know how many heads of states or governments have confirmed their attendance. The initial figure was 40, but we don't know whether it has gone up or it has come down. And the second question has to do, there was a little tremor this afternoon in some parts of New Delhi. Will that affect the summit, or is there any contingency plan you are taking into consideration? Thank you.
Let me answer the second question first. You're right. Those of us who were outside the summit venue, like here, felt the tremor. But those of us who were inside the summit venue were happily having their lunch. So the Indian food that was being served to them seemed to have made them oblivious to anything around them. So none of them even felt the tremor. That's perhaps because that stadium building has a much stronger structure than other buildings here, where you may have been outside, etc. So you can perhaps add it to the quality of Indian food that they were having. That said, the second question I will answer. The first question that you asked, you can play with numbers the way you want to play with. I'll play with numbers in another manner. And that is, you are aware that this is a summit of 56 representatives, that is 54 from Africa, the African Union, and our Prime Minister. We are confident that in an unprecedented development, every institution and country invited will be present for the summit when our Prime Minister takes the floor on 29th of October. And therefore, this summit will be a gathering of every country in Africa, the African Union and India, which is unprecedented in the annals of any summit between Africa and any other country. Yes.
Nicholas, I think, right?
I am Pierre Boisselet. I'm working
Yes.
for a magazine called Jeune Afrique. I would like to know if you can unveil some of the names of the heads of state and governments that will be attending.
You know, name calling is not the right way to go about this. Having said that, if you would like to know the names, they are already in the public domain. Where are you from?
France.
From France. There are several Francophone African countries who are coming, including, for example, Gabon, Guinea. As you are aware, Guinea had elections only about 15 days ago, on 11th of October. The President of Guinea has kindly consented to come immediately after the elections. Let me give another example. Guinea-Bissau. You are aware that a new government was formed in Guinea-Bissau just 2 weeks ago. We also will have a high-level representative, the President of Guinea-Bissau, here. So I can reel off these names, but the point that I'd like to make is that even those who have been elected recently have been very gracious in accepting our Prime Minister's invitation, and we are ready to receive them. You are aware that two of the kings who are in Africa are already in today. That is the King of Morocco and the King of Swaziland. So we will have representation across boundaries in different sectors, and I could list all of them, but I think I would prefer to give you a flavor rather than a listing which would be very common for you to pick up. We will put these out lists as we work through this, but we've already put out to all the delegations their speaking slots, so they are all aware of what time their leaders will be speaking, and you can be certain you're going to have a day full of leaders only speaking, because the number of speakers at the summit level is so high that in consultation with all the participants, we've agreed that only leaders will speak at the summit, and foreign ministers will only get a chance to speak tomorrow at the foreign ministers conference. So those foreign ministers who are leading their delegations will be given pride of place tomorrow, and they will speak first. Even though they are leading the delegations, they will be present in the plenary on the 29th. However, given the paucity of time and the large amount of response that we have received, and we are grateful and for that gracious response from so many countries in Africa, the summit will only be limited to those leaders who are attending. And by leaders, I mean, for example, the invitation for the summit was sent by our Prime Minister. And therefore, in protocol terms, anybody equivalent to our Prime Minister and above will be provided that opportunity and space for making their speeches at the plenary.
I think that's quite clear. Yeah.
So, after this summit gets over, what will be India's stand on the lines of credit that we provide to Africa, and secondly, on access to affordable medicines. That is one issue which African nations have always thanked India for. What is India's position regarding generics and protecting the generics regime in India?
You are aware that more than 80% of HIV retroviral drugs sold in Africa are sourced from India. It is not that we provide them free of cost. No. These are sourced by various organizations because they find them very useful, they find them extremely effective, and they find them very cost effective too. So 85% of all HIV retroviral drugs in Africa are sourced from India. Some of them we provide, but others are sourced by various philanthropic organizations and by the countries themselves. So UNAIDS, which is in the forefront of this activity, is extremely keen to organize platforms for visiting African leaders with our industry as well as with the medical hospitals, etc., to see if we can work out a longer-term arrangement, because right now the arrangement is for HIV retrovirals. However, they are looking for other opportunities, and I'm certain on the sidelines of the summit there are efforts to have some other modalities where such interactions are possible. As regards what we do in terms of LOCs after the summit, I would suggest that please be a little bit patient. It's only 2 more days. You waited such a long time, and I'm certain you'll be patient for 2 more. We've put that out in the public domain. They are available. We have said that already disbursement is more than 3.5 billion out of the 7 billion that we have.
7.4.
7.4 that we have committed. There are approvals for more than 5 billion. So we are fairly well ahead in terms of where we promised, and wait for the next big thing at the summit.
So we were told that you would give us some interesting details at this conference on the cultural component, what you've planned in terms of, the various cultural activities, Bollywood, food, etc. Thank you.
Yes, Rajshekhar, I understand, has briefed you on the ICCR component, but that, culture is intrinsic to every Indian activity. And that is in our dress, in the way we eat our food. As I told you already, the delegates have had a taste of our food which has made them oblivious to the earthquake. So that's the impact of Indian culture with food. However, we're not resting at that. If you're interested, let me go to another angle which you haven't heard of before, and that is there are, by my count, approximately 20 spouses of leaders coming here, accompanying the leaders here. And we've chalked out a very interesting program for them, and we've brought back our ambassador to UNESCO, Ambassador Ruchira Kamboj, who was our former chief of protocol and who is very well versed in how to organize a variety of events which have a cultural component. And so what she's chalked out for them is a mix of Indian traditional cultural exposure to monuments as well as a modern fashion show which will highlight the handlooms of Banaras. This is being choreographed by Sunil Sethi. In addition, we have got 2 master chefs who will be cooking and demonstrating for the spouses how they can perhaps make very delicious Indian food in very short time. So it is taste as well as time that will be a factor while these chefs demonstrate this. So that's one element of Indian culture. Yes, it is happening at the Leela Hotel. Pardon? Yes, Chanakyapuri. Of course, access is only limited to the spouses and a select audience, a select group of Indians who will interact with them. In addition to this, you are aware there is a very interesting program that India is promoting. These are called the Solar Grandmothers. These Solar Grandmamas are being trained right now in Tilonia in Rajasthan. Bunker Roy is bringing some of those who are from Africa, who have from the places where some of these spouses are, to interact with them and to share their experience, because this is a unique program where women above 35 plus are brought to India. They don't speak the language that in which they communicate this program. When they come, they are people who have never been to urban settings. And we asked Bunker Roy, why do you only choose women? He said that men don't listen. They speak too much, like me. So he said women listen, absorb, and then they don't go looking for jobs outside their environment. So this experiment has been extremely successful, where so far about 300 plus African women from various parts of Africa have come. They have gone back and used solar energy for lighting up more than 15,000 villages. We have run programs, short clips on these. These are available on Facebook as well as on YouTube. You can have a look at the sort of activities these solar grandmothers do. So these ladies are going to interact in a unique setting with the African heads of state spouses. This is another element of culture. Let me try and put some other elements of culture in place. No Indian program is complete without culture. So we have, like on many things, we've deviated from the past. We will have a cultural component in the inaugural ceremony, which has not happened in the last two India-Africa Forum summits at the inaugural ceremony. This is a cultural component which exhibits, of course, some of the traditions of India and Africa, but also the brand new India, the India that is vibrant, youthful, energetic, and how that India can partner with a resurgent Africa. It's a very short program. It does not spread more than about 13.5 to 14 minutes, but it's a program that I'm certain all of you would like. That's another cultural element that we are planning for.
Yeah. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Tirthankar. I'm from Radio France Internationale. I'll bring you back from spouses to an unpleasant subject. Excuse me for that. One Indian newspaper today mentioned that $15 billion of concessional credit will be given, announced on 29th. Can you confirm this?
How long have you been here, sir?
Since my birth.
Correct. Well then, don't take as gospel truth what you read in papers until you
I'm a journalist.
It. Yes, you're a journalist. It's your own peril if you take that as gospel truth. Let me tell you. You've asked your question. Let me answer it.
Please.
Okay. Speculation is not the basis for decision making. So let me tell you that any of the figures that are being mentioned are purely speculative. People have not been able to get at the right figure, so they are speculating about it. If they had got at the right figure, they would have tom-tommed it everywhere. So, like you, that speculation will continue for the next 2 days. Please bear with us that if there are announcements, I think it's courteous for us as those who are working towards a goal to wait for those announcements and let our leaders be the first to hear it rather than us trying to spill the beans before that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Anchal.
Sir, as far as the UNSC quest of India is concerned, the External Affairs Minister has already said that, India welcomes Africa's inclusion. Give us a sense of where we stand vis-a-vis India's desires concerned and what Africa wants.
The African common position is well known. It's based on the Esselvini consensus. Our approach on Security Council reform is also well known. We don't see any contradiction in working together on this effort. However, those of us who followed this, and I've been following this since 1995, way before many of you have even been in journalism, I was handling Security Council reform in the United Nations then. I hope to handle it after 2 more months. But that said, this is an ongoing process. We are working on an approach that will lead both Africa and India to be represented in a permanent manner in the United Nations Security Council. We are both ancient civilizations, we are both patient, and we will wait for our day, and we are certain that day will come.
Thank you very much. My name is Poka Christopher. I'm a journalist from South Sudan. How much has or will the South Sudan conflict feature in bilateral talks between our foreign minister and also between talks with President Salva Kiir? That is one. And secondly, the East... Secondly, most of the East African countries, I believe, will attend, but so far efforts by the East African countries, the Great Lakes region, to resolve the conflict in South Sudan don't seem to be effective. I would like to know what role has India played on the sidelines during the talks in Addis Ababa, and what role are you going to play more to see that peace comes to South Sudan that can assist in any partnerships within the region? Because if there is conflict in South Sudan, any partnerships with Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania could be disrupted by conflict in South Sudan. Thank you.
The meetings that you referred to are only going to take place tomorrow, and I think with President Salva Kiir a little later, because I understand he is only coming late. There's still some time to go. I don't know the exact timing as of now. That said, these are important issues which I'm certain the government of Sudan would raise, South Sudan would raise, and our approach to these things is very clear, and that is what Africa wants, and that Africa has always stood for African solutions to African problems, and we respect that. It is not India's intention to go beyond what Africa wants, and therefore, if we can support that approach of African solutions for African problems, we certainly will do so.
If I may add, as you know, India is an active participant in UNMISS. We have a contingent there, and we support fully the IGAD initiative to resolve differences between President Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. Yeah.
So will policy consistency be sought for by India, because there have been a few regime changes within the continent which has led to major changes for India's investments over there. One example can be of Mozambique, where there was a regime change and the oil field that was supposed to be given, it sort of delayed down a bit.
Look, if your question is that does India desire consistency in policies? Obviously, everybody would desire consistency in policy. That said, it is the right of every government, and we respect that right, to choose their own policies, as we have. You could well say that our policies have, for the last 1.5 years, been in a different mode than previously. And that's the sovereign decision of a government which has been chosen by the people of that country. So we will respect any decision that has been the hallmark of our policy towards African states, and that is we respect their right to choose a policy that they are comfortable with. We will work with them at a pace at which they are comfortable and in a manner that they are comfortable.
Yeah. No, I think the lady behind you.
Thank you. My name is Tuwilika. I'm from Ministry of ICT in Namibia. I wanted to know, you've been speaking, or there have been questions being about, what is Africa going to get? So you said African problems, you look at what Africa desires or what they need. So I'm going to turn around the question and ask, what does India have to offer? Right?
I think it's a valid question, and you have a right to ask that. And what does India have to offer? We have to offer that we are as a developing country with a population of 1 billion, there are numerous experiments of development being undertaken in India today. These are not top-driven, but bottoms up. It is normal that when we have a relationship with our development partners, they may find some of these of value, not because we have anything, not because we are better or anything. It is because these experiments are an ongoing process, because there are parts of India which are at very similar requirements as in Africa. There are parts of Africa which have very similar requirements as ours. If there are some small experiments which have worked in India, we could offer them to you. I've explained to you one experiment about solar grandmothers. I mean, this is a unique experiment where you cannot find anywhere else in the world. This is an experiment of teaching uneducated, formally educated women technical skills, which has worked for our people, and if we can share it with Africa, sure. Similarly, there are broader concerns which we share with Africa, and to make common cause on that in the global arena would be good for us and certainly good for Africa. I couldn't replicate and give you several examples of how we can learn. For example, mobile banking in some parts of Africa is way ahead of what we are using. If we can learn that from Africa, if we gain from it, it makes for improvement in the lifestyles of our ordinary people. And yes, we stand to gain from Africa. In those countries where these mobile banking systems are in place, they are way ahead of the arrangements today in India. And we certainly can benefit and gain from those in Africa. So it's not a question of what we can give, what we can take. It's a question of what we can, in terms of our different experiences and experiments, share with each other. And that's it. We respect what you have done. We hope that something that we have done would be of benefit for you.
Africa has a huge market.
Please identify yourself.
Snigdha from NDTV. Africa has a huge market for small little goods like pencils, plastic things, and China seems to have tapped into that market. Is India lagging behind, or is India seeking to tap into the retail sector of Africa?
Ma'am, I think the underpinning of what I've said so far perhaps indicates to you our approach. And let me try and elaborate that a little further. We stand to engage with human resources in Africa because, in our view, human resources are the most important element in any society. Any other resource is peripheral to our engagement. Our engagement with Africa is in terms of human resources, people-to-people contact, exchange of ideas, capacity building, etc., where we can gain and Africa can gain. Others are important, but primary to our engagement with Africa is what is above the ground, and that is human resources.
One question. Mr. Akbaruddin has a very strict policy on one question only. So I think we have no more questions.
The ambassador of Ethiopia has mentioned that that there is much more awareness about India and Africa because of India's outreach there. But in India, there's hardly any awareness about Africa. Like when she says she's from Ethiopia, people ask her, is that in South Africa? So she says it needs to be addressed, this issue. So is the summit planning something on these lines? People-to-people contact.
I think that's a valid observation. It's part of public diplomacy to try and educate within the country itself of the tremendous opportunities and people-to-people contacts that exist, that can exist and can be fostered. And sure, we can do it. The summit is an opportunity to do that, but it has to be an ongoing process. Also, it has to be a process that the Ministry of External Affairs by itself can't deal with it. It's a much broader process. It's valid. We've started that process. You are seeing a lot of small, for example, there are hundreds of very outstanding footballers from Africa playing in India. I'd like some of you to name some of them. We all love football. We watch them, but we don't recollect. I mean, when we grew up, Chima Okere was a household name for anybody watching football in India. This was way back in 70s. So there are role models of Africans who are here, who we can emulate and be proud that they've come and taught us skills which we were lacking in. And this is a long-term process, however. Look, I think what we need to see is when countries start interacting with each other, they work out what is important for them in the international arena, and certainly cooperation on anti-terrorist measures or cooperation on anti-terrorist cooperation is a primary goal of Indian foreign policy. And we have, not today, but over the past, say, few years, also seen that there is a resonance to this in several parts of Africa. And therefore, we do expect that this will come up in the meetings and we will have occasion to make common cause on that.
Okay, last question.
Sir, my name is Harun Riaz. I'm from Diplomacy in Focus. It's a supplementary what she asked about African awareness in India, almost zero. Is it because the Indian media is dependent on the Western media's coverage of Africa, which is biased? As of today, there is not a single Indian journalist who is reporting on a day-to-day basis or regularly from an African country. There was only one journalist, Aman Sethi, for the Hindu. He is no more there in Ethiopia. So what the ambassador of Ethiopia mentioned yesterday is probably true, and is raised again and again by African ambassadors and high commissioners regularly, that we don't have first-hand information from Africa appearing in the Indian media. There is no Doordarshan coverage, there is no PTI, UNI coverage. It's missing.
You're absolutely right, and I agree with you 100%, and I would certainly agree with the ambassador of Ethiopia on this point. That said, I'd like to know, any of you standing here, Are you controlled by the Indian government on anything that you do? I mean, why look at the government for this? You never look at the government for anything else. So, please take the initiative. We will be there to support you. Take the initiative. I know my colleague, Mr. Vikas Swarup, does in a small manner promote that cooperation through agencies. There are some agencies who use African reporters to report to India, but they are in very small numbers. But you are all the representatives of the media, so please look inside yourself for a solution to those problems.
With that, this press conference comes to a close. Thank you all.